Hey there, and welcome to my overview on composting. Some of you may have arrived here not even knowing what composting is, so let's just kind of cover that real quick. Composting is basically Mother Nature's way of recycling organic, natural waste material into usable nutrition for all plants. And basically, you can turn everyday organic waste like kitchen scraps or yard waste into this super dark, nutrient-rich, um, earth-smelling soil. If you have a garden, lawn, trees, shrubs, or even plant boxes, you can use this to improve the soil and the plants that live in them. Uh, it works, well, composting in general works with aerobic or fresh air action, allowing bacteria to thrive and produce this rich soil by breaking down the organic matter that you're feeding the compost, without any kind of bad odor if you're doing it right. And you should compost. It has a lot of benefits. First off, you can use it to control weeds, help break down your clay soil, or adding water and nutrient holding capacity to sandy soil. It'll help you grow stuff in sandy soil. It adds nutrients to the soil. It suppresses root damaging soil organisms. If you have a lawn, your lawn could look its best with simple compost, this free, rich, fertile soil that you make by just reusing what you're already consuming. It takes very, very little effort, and once you start, you're going to be addicted because the benefit is just wonderful. It's tremendous. You can compost about a third of your household garbage. And yard waste, like if you have fallen leaves or grass clippings, you can compost weeds, before they go to seed, and the remains of soft-stemmed garden plants. You can also compost kitchen scraps like fruit and vegetables. You can compost eggshells, tea bags, and my favorite is coffee grounds with the filters. Um, you know, and I like using bananas. I eat a lot of bananas, so it works out really well for the compost. The things that you should not compost are things like meats, fats, bones, fish, dairy products, cooking oil, really wet grass that'll give off a really foul odor. And I'm going to explain in a minute. When you compost, you're going to sort of layer the material, and as you do that, each layer shouldn't be more than about 6 inches. So let's talk about how you actually compost. Well, the composting process requires organic material, like the stuff I just mentioned, moisture, air, and optionally you can also add soil. And this is just going to sort of enrich the end result and speed up your efforts. So what you want to do is you want to kind of alternate layers of waste. And you want to keep it moist and let the air get in. I use kind of a tine. I forget what the tool is called. It looks like a pitchfork. It's a little thicker. Anyway, I use that to sort of break up the compost and let the air get through. It works best also when you're chopping the organic material into smaller wastes. What I like to do is I'll start the compost. And you get a bin, ideally. You can make your own bin, and I'll get into that in another video. But if you're just starting out at this, like I was, you want to start out with a bin, just something that's easy. You want to layer the organic material inside of the bin, and I like to start with some good soil, like topsoil that I'll buy, just for the bottom layer, and then you layer kitchen waste and the yard waste until it's full. And basically, the dry materials that I mentioned, like the leaves and the grass clippings and the weeds, the things that you're really going to let dry out, they contain a certain level of carbon. And the other stuff, like the fruits, let me go back to the slide and I'll just show you. The other stuff, like the fruits and the vegetables, coffee grounds, they're going to let out a certain amount of nitrogen. And when the carbon to nitrogen ratio is just so, and the material is sort of being, kind of compacted by the bin, and you mix it, this reaction occurs, this reaction of decay. And you keep it moist and you let the air get through, and you start to see this break down, and you kind of see the process happening. I like to add worms to my compost. It's a lot of fun, and I have two small boys, and they love watching me dump the worms into the compost bin. That's another thing, composting. You can really get your children involved in this awesome, very green habit, and it's really incredible. It's an incredible bonding experience that I have with my kids, composting and just gardening in general. So sorry, I'm getting off topic here. um, anyway, okay. So when you do all that, you want to turn the compost probably like I do it once every couple of weeks, once every month, but don't turn it too often. Just don't like let it sit for a few days and then start turning the layers. You want to kind of give it time to react, so to speak. And usually, it could take I would say up to 6 months if you really have a good mixture of stuff in there. At the latest you should start getting usable compost would be 6 months. Earlier side would probably be about 2 months, but on average for a beginner, you should expect to have a nice amount of finished compost within the 6 months if you're pretty aggressive. Um, and some of these bins are huge, and if you're just starting out, you're not going to be using it as often, and it's going to be great. You're going to have awesome soil just on tap whenever you need it. It shouldn't smell, and this is really important. My compost looked a lot like this picture when I first started out. I would just dump fruit on the top and just kind of leave it. And if I did this in the mid-spring or late spring, I'd open it up and there'd be fruit flies or just nastiness everywhere. And although you do want a lot of insects and stuff like that inside of the compost because they're going to help move all these different ingredients around in the compost, um, flies aren't really a necessity. So what you want to do is you want to cover any fruit or anything that's attracting the flies with like a layer of leaves, or I use hay or straw, and that really keeps them at bay, and it also helps cut down on any odors. If you're adding a lot of fruit, you may notice the compost may smell a little bit too. We'll get into all that a little later. Um, the best location for the compost, it should be on some kind of level patch of earth, convenient to your house so it doesn't feel like a chore. What you're going to want to do is you're going to want to keep like a small Ziploc bag in your kitchen, in your refrigerator, and just kind of fill it up through the week. So that way, on the weekends, you empty that bag into the compost. That way you're not going out there every single day. That's ridiculous. Um, some of the common questions are, can I compost pet waste? No, you cannot. The only kind of waste like that, manure or whatever, that you can compost uh, is a manure that comes from a like a vegetable or eating animal like a cow. Cows eat grass, or chickens or rabbits. That kind of waste you can compost. But no, you can't just hold your baby over the compost bin and let them go to town. It's not going to work, and you're probably going to attract some animals. Um, Speaking of which, actually, let me go back there. With animals, when adding your kitchen waste, make sure you dig it into the compost and cover it with soil. Other than the flies, you don't want nasty animals coming out if you have a lot of kitchen waste in there. Possums, raccoons. I don't know what you have by you, but you'll just attract kind of nastiness if you leave all that stuff out. Where was I? Okay, can you compost wood ashes? Yes, you can, but go easy. Don't put too much wood ash into the compost. It's a good source of, I think it's pronounced potash or potash, or anyway. It's best to add thin layers, but don't overdo it with the ashes. Um, like I said, with discouraging flies, just cover any kind of like fruit waste or anything like that with straw or soil or whatever. Um, you can compost weeds, and actually, it's really convenient. I have some other videos where it's early spring and I'm just composting the weeds around the house, throwing them in a bucket, letting them dry out, and throwing them in the compost. They say you should throw the weeds in the compost before they go to seed to sort of decrease the amount of weeds that you're going to get if you're using this for a garden or on your lawn. But I'll be honest with you. Usually, the heat of the compost will kill any weed seeds. And that's another thing. I know I'm jumping all over, but the heat of the compost, when this thing starts reacting, it's going to get hot. I mean, I don't think you'll burn your hands, but if you stick your hand into the compost, it's going to be very, very warm. It's actually not uncommon to see a compost steaming in the wintertime. And that heat is mainly generated actually by the microbes inside of the soil, these microorganisms that are moving around the soil and eating all the ingredients you're putting in there and excreting or creating a beneficial waste that makes the soil nutrient rich. Grass clippings. Grass clippings you can compost, and that's pretty good. I don't have a bagger for my lawnmower, so I get grass clippings all over the place. And I rake them up. It's really not a big deal. Throw them in the compost. They make awesome, nutrient-rich soil. Leaves. I have a lot of leaves. If you have a lot of leaves, make sure you save some. Or if you're blowing them into like side areas of the house, go in there and grab those leaves because they turn into this really wonderful. I don't know how to describe it. Like this soft mulch almost. And it makes great material for the compost. So like I said, just quick review. Basically, you have your brown layers and your green layers. Brown layers are leaves, hay, straw. You can use wood chips also. And you have your green layers, grass clippings, fruits, vegetables, weeds, stuff like that. Your brown layers have the carbon in them, and the green layers have the nitrogen in them. So when you create a nice blend of these two, you have a good carbon to nitrogen ratio, and that helps the decay process. That creates this reaction. Once you have air and water, you're going to start getting those microorganisms or microbes or whatever they call them. They're going to start eating that stuff up and turning it into this amazing usable soil. You should definitely consider the surface area of the compost. My compost is about 3 feet high by 3 feet wide. That seems to be a good area to sort of compact the ingredients and create that reaction. It's working well for me. Volume, you want to think about how much compost you're going to need. If you have a really big garden or you have a really big lawn, or you want to grow a lot of plants, you're going to want a larger composter if you're using this more often. Moisture, you want to keep it wet. I usually will go out and water the compost once a week as it gets into spring. But I'm going to make a really cliche analogy that I hear all over the web. It's not really cliche, it's just this is how everyone describes the moisture of a compost. They say it should feel like a wrung out sponge. So that should be the amount of like moisture that you have in your compost, if you could kind of create that analogy. Aeration, you want to get a lot of air in this thing. I take this pitchfork thingy that I can't remember the name for, and I'm sure one of you remembers it. So call me out on it and tell me what that thing is called. But it's this 4-tine pitchfork, and I use it to kind of dig in there and create these air holes or air pockets. I used to use a shovel, which you can also do, but that kind of just pushes it down. You want something that's really going to break it up and move it around. Time, like I said, it can take 2 months, I guess, at the earliest for fresh material. I would say maybe 6 months on average. If you just leave it, don't do much with it, it should not take you more than 6 months. And yeah, I guess that's sort of the gist. But if you're into this stuff, I'd love for you to check out my site, greenandthrifty.com. So basically, I believe in creating a sustainable lifestyle that allows you to actually save money. So it's really like a win-win because you're living this life that's not so dependent on products and buying all this plastic and this ridiculousness. You create the sustainable lifestyle, you cut down on your footprint, great, but at the same time maybe you don't want to be sort of help Mother Earth. You don't care that much, you need incentive to do this kind of stuff. That's where I'm going to come in and show you how you can save money living this lifestyle. I've saved a lot of money being green and finding these ways to cut costs while doing it. And on the website, I show you how to do that. So check out greenandthrifty.com. You can get a free video on that page where I can show you how to add it's really not an exaggeration to say thousands of dollars worth of savings in a relatively short period of time. Within the first year, definitely. It's just these savings, and they really add up. It's pretty crazy. So I am going on and on. I apologize. This is one of my early videos. I'm new at this, but I hope to see you at the site. Have a good one. I hope you learned something today. Take care. Bye.